The phone rang just once before I picked it up. Something in my chest told me this wasn't an ordinary call. Grandma, they think I did it. Then silence, breath, faint sob, and the line went dead. For a few seconds I just stood there, holding the phone as if it could still bring her voice back. The morning light from the kitchen window felt colder suddenly, slicing across the floor like glass. Isha, my granddaughter. The same girl who hadn't spoken to me since that terrible night, when her mother Zara stormed out of my house screaming that I'd chosen sides. I tried to pretend peace lived here. I made tea, watered the plants, visited the market. But every quiet morning since then had carried her absence like a ghost sitting at the breakfast table. And now that ghost had called me, from a police station. I pressed redial, but it went straight to voicemail. Again. And again. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. Ya Allah, what have they done to you, child? I whispered. The house felt too big, too silent. On the wall, a photo of Aisha at 12 smiled back at me, eyes wide with innocence, standing beside her mother and me during Eid. Back when laughter still belonged to this family. I tried to remember her voice from a few seconds ago. Cracked, frightened, barely recognizable. They think I did it. Did what? Steal. Hurt someone. Well, not Aisha. She was bright, gentle. The kind who'd save stray kittens and cry over them later. But I'd seen this before. How innocence gets crushed when family pride is on the line. I walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood was alive with ordinary sounds. The milkman's bicycle, children shouting, birds flitting between mango branches. Everything looked unchanged, yet my world had tilted. I felt the same dread I'd felt years ago. The night Zara left home, her suitcase banging down the stairs, her eyes full of fire and resentment. She'd said, "You gave everything to Adil. You made me nothing." I'd never answered her that night. Pride had sealed my lips, and silence became our inheritance. Now her daughter was in trouble. I reached for the old shawl on the chair, my husband's last gift before he passed. He'd always said, "No matter how far the children go, you'll be their compass, Rahima." But even a compass loses direction when the map burns. I sat down, forcing myself to breathe. Maybe this was a misunderstanding. Maybe the police had made a mistake. Yet the more I tried to believe it, the deeper my heart sank. People didn't end up in police stations for misunderstandings. Not in this family. We carried our sins like jewelry, hidden but heavy. My tea had gone cold. I poured it down the sink and watched the liquid swirl away, brown and lifeless. The phone buzzed again, a text message. Unknown number. Station 9, City Center. Aisha needs a guardian to sign her release. That single line broke something in me. She hadn't called her mother. She'd called me. After months of silence. After everything. Because deep down she still believed I'd come. I grabbed my purse, my keys, and stood before the mirror. My reflection startled me. Lines that used to be gentle now looked carved by years of regret. Grandma, they think I did it. Her words echoed like a curse. Did Zara know? Was she the one who'd sent her there? Or was this some cruel twist of fate pulling us all back together just to break us again? I locked the door behind me and stepped outside. The air smelled of rain though the sky was clear. My neighbor called out a greeting, but I couldn't answer. My footsteps felt heavier with every step toward the gate. The world blurred around me. The rickshaw horns, the street chatter, the noise of life continuing as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. And I knew deep inside this wasn't just about Aisha. This was about the rot that had been growing inside our family for years, the kind you can't see until it's too late. As I reached the main road, a chill ran through me. Was I walking toward my granddaughter? Or toward another truth that would tear us apart again? Either way, there was no turning back now. I tightened my shawl, hailed a rickshaw, and whispered to myself, "Hold on, Aisha. Grandma's coming." The moment I stepped into the police station, the air changed. It smelled of sweat, fear, and something else, regret. Aisha was sitting behind a glass partition, her head bowed, her hands shaking on the metal table. For a second I couldn't breathe. She looked like a stranger wearing my granddaughter's face. Her hair was messy, her eyes red from crying. But when she looked up and saw me, I saw the little girl I once knew. Lost, scared, waiting for someone to say everything would be all right. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice hoarse. My heart nearly broke hearing it. I placed my palm against the glass, and she mirrored me. There was a tremor between us. Years of distance and silence trying to melt away in that one touch. But glass stays cold, no matter how much warmth you press against it. The officer behind me cleared his throat. "She's been accused of theft," he said flatly, like it was a weather report. I turned, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Theft? From where?" "From the house she works at. Jewelry worth $500,000. The number felt unreal, floating somewhere above my head. Aisha's eyes filled again. "I didn't do it, Grandma. I swear." Her words cracked in the middle, like they were breaking apart before reaching me. I wanted to believe her. No, I did believe her. But the weight of her mother's past sat heavy in my chest. Zara's lies. Zara's pride. Zara's accusations. History has a cruel way of repeating itself, doesn't it? I asked the officer if I could speak to her alone. He hesitated but finally nodded, stepping away. I leaned closer to the glass. "Aisha, tell me the truth. What happened?" She took a shaky breath. "I was working for a family in Gulberg. They trusted me with the jewelry cabinet. And one night, it went missing. They said I was the only one who had access." Her voice trembled. "But I didn't take it. I would never steal." I believed every word. Still something didn't make sense. I glanced toward the desk where the officers whispered among themselves. Papers shuffled, phones rang, people moved. But time around us felt frozen. "Did you tell your mother?" I asked quietly. Aisha's expression changed. Panic flashed in her eyes. "She knows," she said, looking down. She was the one who called them. For a heartbeat, I didn't understand what I'd just heard. "What do you mean?" I whispered. She swallowed hard. "It was Mom. She called the police." The room tilted. It was as if the air had been sucked out of my lungs. Zara. Of all people. Zara. I stumbled back a step, gripping the chair beside me for balance. "She said she wanted to teach me a lesson," Aisha continued, tears rolling down her face. "That I've been getting too close to people who don't belong to us." "Too close," I repeated, barely recognizing my own voice. Aisha nodded, shame in her eyes. "She didn't like that my boss's son used to drop me home. But he was just helping me, Grandma. He's kind." The word kind hit me like a blade. Zara never forgave kindness from others. It reminded her of what she'd lost. I tried to control the storm rising inside me. So Zara had called the police. She'd dragged her own daughter through this humiliation. For what? To feed her bitterness. To win some twisted war with ghosts from the past. I turned to the officer, forcing my voice to steady. "I'll sign whatever is needed. She's coming home with me." He frowned. "We can't release her yet. The complaint came from her legal guardian, her mother. Until it's withdrawn, we can't do much." Her mother. The word burned. Aisha reached for the glass again. "Please don't be angry with her," she said softly. "Mom just doesn't understand me anymore." Her innocence was both a light and a knife. I looked at her trembling hands and thought about how many times I'd failed both of them. Maybe this was my punishment, watching the same pain pass from mother to daughter like an unwanted inheritance. When I stepped outside the station, the air was thick with exhaust and evening heat. I stood there for a long time, watching people hurry past, living lives untouched by betrayal. I had promised myself years ago never to let Zara drag our family's name through the dirt again. But she'd gone further this time. She'd dragged her own child. The city lights flickered on, one by one, like eyes opening in judgment. I clutched my bag to my chest, my pulse still racing. The echo of Aisha's whisper followed me down the steps. "Mom did." Her name still burned on my tongue. Zara. Even after all these years, just thinking of her was like reopening a wound that never healed properly. I stood by the police station gate, my hand trembling as I hailed a rickshaw, the noise of the street blurring into nothing. The past was no longer behind me. It was rushing straight toward me. On the way home, memories started to claw their way out of the dark corners of my mind. The shouting, the slammed doors. The night Zara walked out with her suitcase and hate in her eyes. I can still hear her voice, sharp, trembling, poisonous. You always loved Adil more. You gave him everything that should have been mine. I had tried to explain then, but what defense can a mother offer when her child's heart is already poisoned by pride? It wasn't about love, Zara, I had pleaded. It was about fairness. But fairness, to her, had always looked like betrayal. Now, standing decades later in the same house she once stormed out of, I could still feel her anger trapped in these walls. Her photographs were gone long ago, but her shadow still lingered. At the dining table where she'd sat in silence, in the hallway where she'd once cried and refused to say goodbye. I thought I had buried that part of my life. But Aisha's trembling voice had dug it up again with one sentence. Mom did. I made myself a cup of tea, though I couldn't bring myself to drink it. The clock ticked louder than usual, like it was mocking me for believing peace was ever real. How had we come to this? A daughter who despised me. A granddaughter trapped in the same storm her mother created. I pressed my palm to my forehead. God, how do I stop this from repeating? The silence didn't answer. Never does. That night I sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. I remembered Zara's face the last time I saw her. Defiant, tear-streaked, full of hurt she refused to name. She had accused me of robbing her of her place in this family. But it was her own bitterness that pushed her away. And now, she had called the police on her own child. Was this her revenge against me? Or against life itself? I heard Aisha's voice in my head again, soft and trembling. She didn't understand me anymore. I wanted to hold her and promise that I did. But deep down I was afraid. Because maybe I did understand Zara more than I wanted to admit. That same fire, stubborn, proud, self-destructive, ran through all of us. And I feared what it would destroy next. I looked at an old family photo tucked behind a vase. Adil, smiling shyly beside his sister. Zara, barely 16, standing a little apart even then. She had always been different. Fierce, passionate, wounded. She wanted love, but on her own impossible terms. And when she didn't get it, she built a wall so high, none of us could climb it again. I remember the night after their father's death. We sat in this same living room, the will papers still on the table. She didn't speak for hours, just stared at the envelope, her jaw tight, her eyes hollow. Then finally she said it. So it's true. You gave him more. I had explained again and again that Adil had responsibilities. His children, his debts. But Zara heard only one thing, that she was worth less. Her voice had cracked when she said, "You'll regret this, Mama." And then she walked out, leaving me with silence that lasted years. I thought time had softened her. But now, learning what she'd done to Aisha, it was clear, time hadn't healed anything. It had only hardened her bitterness into something colder. Still, Aisha's eyes at the station haunted me. So full of fear, yet still full of love. She didn't want revenge. She wanted understanding. Maybe it wasn't too late for her. Maybe if I faced Zara again, I could stop this curse from passing on. I stood up, my knees aching but my mind sharp with purpose. I grabbed my shawl and looked at the door. For years I'd avoided it. The conversation, the confrontation, the truth. But tonight, I could almost hear my late husband's voice urging me. Don't let her destroy what's left of this family. I exhaled slowly, tightening the shawl around my shoulders. Outside, the night air was cold and heavy with dust, like it carried the weight of everything unsaid. I locked the door behind me and whispered to myself, more a promise than a prayer. It ends tonight. Some truths hide behind the warmest smiles. And that evening when Zara opened her front door, I knew I was about to meet one. Her house was too perfect. Polished marble floors, glittering chandeliers, a scent of roses that couldn't quite mask something rotten underneath. It wasn't a home. It was a stage. Zara stood in the doorway, wearing that brittle smile that never reached her eyes. "Mother," she said, her tone sweet and sharp at once, "you should have called before coming." I forced a smile back. "If I had, would you have answered?" Her lips twitched. "Depends on the day." Inside, her husband, Imran, sat in the living room, pretending to read the newspaper. He didn't look up. His silence said everything. Years of it, stacked between them like invisible walls. I hadn't seen my daughter in nearly 5 years. And yet, standing in front of her, it felt as if we'd never stopped fighting. She moved with the same quiet confidence her father once had, except hers was sharper, an armor made of pride. Her hair was perfectly set, her clothes elegant. But her eyes, they were restless. "Watching. Measuring. Tea?" she asked lightly, already turning toward the kitchen. "No, thank you," I said. "I won't stay long." That made her pause. "Then why are you here?" I met her gaze. "Because your daughter called me, from the police station." For the briefest second, something flickered in her expression. Guilt? Fear? But then it was gone, replaced by that same composed smile. "She needs to learn," Zara said simply. "Learn what?" "How it feels to be abandoned." Zara's eyes hardened. "Actions have consequences, Mother." She stole from her employer. I won't shield her from reality. She says she didn't. She lies. Just like, she caught herself, lips tightening. "Just like you used to." Her words cut deeper than I expected. The years between us vanished, and suddenly I was standing in our old kitchen again. Her teenage voice ringing through the air. "You always take Adil's side. You never believe me." The same accusations, the same bitterness. It was as if she'd passed her pain to her daughter like an heirloom. Imran rose awkwardly from the couch. "Maybe we shouldn't talk about this now," he murmured, still avoiding eye contact. But I turned toward him anyway. "You think she stole?" He hesitated. "Zara said." "Zara says many things," I interrupted softly. "Does she ever let you say yours?" Zara shot me a look that could have frozen fire. "Don't come into my house and undermine me." "I'm not undermining you," I said. "I'm trying to understand how a mother could call the police on her own child." Her laugh was low and cold. "Don't start, Mother. Not again. Not your lectures about family and love. You made your choices, I'm making mine." For a moment neither of us spoke. The silence between us buzzed louder than any words. Then I saw it, glinting under the chandelier light. A gold necklace around her neck. Simple, elegant, familiar. Froze. My heart gave a dull, heavy thud. "Zara," I whispered. "That necklace." She touched it casually. "You like it? Imran bought it for me last month." I stepped closer, my breath catching. "That's strange." Her brows arched. "Why?" "Because it looks exactly like the one Aisha's employer claims was stolen." The air shifted instantly. Tight, electric, fragile. Zara's lips curved into a soft laugh, one that made my stomach twist. "Oh, Mother, please. Not everything has to be a conspiracy." "I'm not accusing you," I said, my voice trembling despite myself. "I'm just asking questions. And I'm just asking you to stop." Her eyes glinted, dark, defensive, dangerous. "You never trusted me, did you? Even now. After all these years. Trust isn't something you destroy and rebuild overnight, Zara." She looked away, her fingers clutching the necklace as though protecting it from me. I turned toward the window, needing a moment to breathe. Outside, the city lights blurred into gold and gray. Inside, the weight of our history filled every corner. I thought of Aisha in that cold police station, terrified and alone. And here was her mother, sitting in a mansion wearing a necklace that didn't belong to her. I wanted to scream, but what came out was only a whisper. "She's your daughter." Zara crossed her arms. And I'm her mother. I know what's best for her. No, I said quietly. You know what's best for your pride. Imran shifted uncomfortably, looking at Zara's neck, then quickly looking away again. That small movement told me everything I needed to know. He knew. He knew something wasn't right, but he was too afraid to speak. I placed my hand on the edge of the table, steadying myself. The tea tray trembled slightly as I exhaled. Do you remember, I said slowly, the necklace your father gave me before he passed? The one that vanished from the house. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes did. A flicker so quick I might have imagined it. She smiled again. Mother, I really think you should go now. So I did. But as I walked out of her door, my knees weak and my chest heavy, I couldn't shake the image of that gold chain glinting against her skin. It wasn't new. It wasn't from Imran. And it wasn't hers. I paused at the gate, gripping the cold iron railing, the wind whipping through my shawl. I remembered my husband's handwriting on that old jewelry receipt, for Zara's wedding when she finds her piece. He had meant to give it to her one day. But it vanished long before he could. And now, here it was, around her neck gleaming like a lie. I stared back at the house one last time. Behind those glittering windows, my daughter smiled at her reflection in the mirror, believing no one could see through her. But I did. For the first time I truly did. Some truths hide in silence. Others in the spaces left empty, like the one I found in my jewelry chest that night. The house was dark except for the lamp on my dresser. Its yellow light spilled over the old wooden box my husband had carved with his own hands decades ago. I hadn't opened it in years. My fingers trembled as I lifted the lid. The faint scent of sandalwood drifted up, mixed with the dust of memories I'd tried to forget. Inside lay everything he'd ever gifted me. Delicate bangles, old silver earrings, and a few faded receipts tucked under velvet. But the space in the middle was empty. The place where the second gold necklace should have been. A chill spread through my chest. That necklace was unique. 2 identical pieces made as a set. One meant for me. One meant for Zara when she was ready. I lifted the remaining piece and turned it over under the light. The engraving shimmered faintly. To my beloved. The same inscription would be on the other. My husband's handwriting etched forever into the gold. If Zara had it. She knew exactly what she was wearing. And exactly what it meant. I sat down heavily on the bed. My pulse thundered in my ears. Had she stolen it from this very box? The thought made my stomach twist. But something deeper hurt more. The realization that she hadn't just betrayed her daughter. She'd betrayed her father's memory. The man who had loved her despite everything. The next morning I dressed quickly and went back to the police station. The same dull gray walls greeted me, the same tired officers, the same smell of cheap tea and old paper. But this time I wasn't here as a grandmother. I was here as a woman looking for the truth. Officer Malik, the man who'd spoken to me before, looked surprised to see me again. Mrs. Rahman, you're back? Yes, I said quietly. I need to see the file again. The one about my granddaughter, Aisha. He hesitated, glancing around. You already saw the summary. I need more than a summary, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. I need to know who accused her. He sighed and opened a folder from his desk. The sound of the metal clip snapping open made my skin crawl. He flipped through a few pages, then stopped. His finger tapped one line. There it is. The initial statement came from a family member, confirming Aisha's involvement. I leaned closer, the letters blurring as I read them aloud. Statement provided by Mrs. Zara Imran. My breath caught. For a moment the room tilted. The walls seemed to close in, heavy and airless. She confirmed it. I whispered. Malik nodded. Said she saw the jewelry with Aisha herself. Claimed it matched something missing from her home. We took that into account. But there was no proof. Not enough, he admitted. Still, her statement was strong. It's what led to the arrest. I stepped back, gripping the counter to keep from collapsing. The words echoed inside me, sharp and cruel. Her own mother set her up. I could almost see Zara's face again, smiling that brittle smile, fingers resting on that gold necklace. She'd called the police. She'd lied. And then she'd worn the proof around her neck like a trophy. My vision blurred with tears. I didn't want to cry. What kind of mother does that? Mrs. Ramon. The officer's voice broke through the haze. Are you all right? Forced a nod. Yes, I'm fine. But I wasn't. I hadn't been fine since the moment Zara's voice turned against her own bloodline. Outside, the sunlight hit my face like a slap. People passed me on the street. Strangers with their own worries, their own secrets, but none could imagine the weight pressing down on my chest. I had failed both my daughter and my granddaughter. One had turned into the very thing she once feared becoming. The other was paying the price. At home, I sat by the window again. The city noise faded, replaced by the soft tick of the clock. I reached into my handbag and pulled out the remaining necklace. It gleamed dully in my palm. Its twin was around Zara's neck. Its mirror image. The proof of everything she'd done. But I couldn't confront her yet, not without solid evidence. Zara was cunning. She'd twist my words, turn the story, make me the villain again. Just like she always had. I needed help. Someone who knew the family history, the inheritance, the jewelry. Someone who wouldn't be fooled by her performance. And only one person came to mind. Bill, my son. The one Zara had accused me of favoring. The one who had walked away from all of it, the money, the fights, the blame. If anyone could help me uncover the truth, it was him. Because he, too, had been betrayed by her lies once. I picked up the phone, my hand shaking. The dial tone rang, each beep echoing louder than the last. When his voice finally came through, calm, distant, wary, I whispered only 2 words. Adil, it's time. Some silences are louder than screams. And when Adil opened the door that evening, his silence spoke volumes before he ever said a word. It had been years since I'd visited him. His home was small but warm, tucked behind a quiet street where Jasmine climbed the gates. The faint sound of evening prayers drifted from a nearby mosque, soft and haunting. He looked older, gray at the temples, weariness in his eyes, but there was still kindness in his face. The kind that life hadn't quite managed to crush. Mother, he said softly, as if afraid I might vanish if he spoke too loud. I need to talk to you, Adil, I said. It's about your sister. His jaw tightened immediately. Zara, he nodded. She's done something terrible. We sat across from each other in the dim living room. The light from a single lamp spilled over the table between us, where I placed my phone and opened the photo. It was the picture I had taken secretly from outside Zara's house, the gold necklace gleaming on her neck. Adil's eyes lingered on it, and then, almost imperceptibly, he flinched. You've seen it before, I said quietly. He hesitated, his thumb brushing the edge of his teacup. Where did she get that? That's what I came to ask you. He leaned back, staring at the photo again. His silence stretched on so long, I almost gave up waiting. Finally he spoke. After Father died, he said slowly, Zara came to me. She said she needed money for something urgent. She sold a few old pieces from the house. Jewelry that should have been locked away. My stomach twisted. You mean she pawned them? He nodded. At the old market near Saddar. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was too tired, too broken to fight her again. And the necklace? He exhaled. It looked exactly like that one. For a moment I couldn't breathe. The truth settled between us like dust, soft, silent, suffocating. She stole from her own family, I whispered. And now she's done the same to her daughter. Adil rubbed his face with both hands. Mother, Zara's been drowning in her own anger for years. After Father passed, something in her changed. She blamed everyone but herself. I nodded slowly. I know. But this is beyond anger. He looked up at me and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be, the one who always tried to protect everyone. Mother, he said quietly. She took more than gold back then. I frowned. What do you mean? He met my eyes. She took peace. From you. From me. From this whole family. His words hit harder than I expected. 'Cause he was right. Ever since that day, every gathering, every memory, every conversation had been shadowed by her resentment. Even after she left, her absence filled every room. And now, she was repeating the cycle, with her own daughter paying the price. I reached across the table and took his hand. Adil, I can't let her destroy Aisha. She's just a child caught in her mother's storm. We have to expose the truth. He looked at me for a long time, eyes filled with conflict. Expose her, he repeated quietly. Yes. If the police hear it from us, if they know Zara lied, it could save Aisha. He leaned back, his fingers tightening around the cup. The light flickered slightly, casting shadows across his face. Mother! His voice trembled, barely above a whisper. If you go down this road, it might destroy all of us. I stared at him, stunned. What are you saying? He sighed. You know what Zara is capable of. She'll fight back. She'll drag us through the mud. She'll twist every word until no one knows who's lying anymore. You've seen her do it before. His words sliced through the quiet like a blade. She's your sister, I said, my throat tightening. And she's your daughter, he replied. But she stopped being our family a long time ago. The clock on the wall ticked louder, each second pulling me closer to the edge of something irreversible. Maybe Adil was right. Maybe confronting Zara would tear open wounds too deep to ever heal. But I couldn't let fear decide this time. I thought of Aisha, sitting alone in that cold police cell, waiting for someone to believe her. If not me, then who? I stood slowly, clutching my handbag, the photo still glowing faintly on the phone screen. Adil didn't move. His silence followed me to the door. Heavy, sorrowful, final. Please, Mother, he said quietly. Don't make her your enemy again. I turned back, my heart aching. She made that choice herself. Outside, the night air was sharp against my face. The street was empty, but I could still feel the echo of Adil's warning following me home. If you go down this road, it might destroy all of us. Maybe he was right. But the truth had already destroyed too much. Some truths must be lured out like snakes, from the dark, from their comfort, from the lies they hide beneath. That night I became the hunter. Adil's warning still echoed in my head. It might destroy all of us. But I'd lived too long in the ruins of Zara's destruction to let fear stop me now. So I did what every desperate mother does when love and justice collide. I lied. Called Zara first. My voice trembled, rehearsed to sound fragile. Come to dinner tomorrow night, I said softly. Let's end this bitterness. Just us like before. She hesitated, suspicion flickering in her tone. Why now? Because I'm tired, Zara, I whispered. And I miss my family. Then the false warmth returned. Fine, Mother. I'll come. Next I called Aisha. When she answered, her voice cracked. Nanny. They still don't believe me. I do, I said, my throat tightening. Come tomorrow night. Let's bring everything into the light. She hesitated. Will Mama be there? Yes. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Then softly. Okay. The next day felt endless. I cleaned the house until the floors shone, not out of pride but out of nerves. Every sound, the ticking clock, the knife against the cutting board, felt louder than usual, like the universe was holding its breath. Before they arrived, I slipped a small voice recorder under the dining table. Its tiny red light blinked once before disappearing into silence. If truth wouldn't come willingly, I'd coax it out myself. Zara arrived first, draped in silk, her hair perfectly styled. She greeted me with a smile so polished it hurt to look at. Mother, this is unexpected, she said, glancing around the familiar dining room. It's time to start over, I replied, forcing a smile. Her husband, Salman, followed quietly behind her. His eyes didn't meet mine. When Aisha finally arrived, she looked fragile, like someone who had cried too much for too long. Her hands trembled as she set down her purse. The air between her and Zara was a battlefield. Silent, charged, full of old wounds that had never healed. We sat. The clinking of plates filled the silence. No one spoke. Finally I broke it. "I've missed this," I said softly. "All of us together. A family." Zara smiled thinly. "Families don't always stay the same, Mother. People grow apart." Aisha's eyes lowered. "Or get pushed apart." Zara shot her a sharp look. "Don't start." "I'm not starting," Aisha whispered. "You ended it." My heart pounded as I watched them, mother and daughter, locked in the same war that once tore Zara and me apart. It was like watching history bleed through generations. So I asked the question that had been clawing at my soul. "Zara," I said quietly, "where did you get that necklace?" She froze, her hand instinctively touching the gold resting against her collarbone. Then she laughed, lightly, falsely. "Mother, please," she said. "Not this again. It's just jewelry." "It's not just jewelry," I said, my voice trembling. "It's the same one that went missing years ago. The one your father gave me." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you accusing me?" The tension snapped like a wire. Aisha's tears spilled silently down her cheeks. "You accused me, Mama. You told them I stole it." Zara's face flushed. "Because you did. You've always been careless, spoiled." "Stop," cut in sharply. "Enough lies." She turned on me, fury burning in her eyes. "You think I'd frame my own child?" The room fell into a stunned hush. Even the ceiling fan seemed to stop. Then, from the other end of the table, Salman's voice broke through, low, shaking. "Yes, Zara. You would." She turned toward him, eyes wide. "What did you just say?" He swallowed hard, but the words poured out like poison finally released. "You did it for money, Zara. You always do. You told me you needed that necklace to make things right. But you pawned the last one too." Zara went pale. Her fork clattered against the plate. "Salman," she hissed, "stop talking." But it was too late. The truth was out. And beneath the table, my hidden recorder blinked silently, catching every word. Aisha's breath hitched. You really did this to me?" Zara's mouth opened, but no words came. For once, she looked smaller than her lies, just a frightened woman trapped in her own web. I sat still, my heart pounding in my ears. Every second stretched endlessly, filled with the weight of years, of betrayal, of silence, of love turned sour. Then Zara looked at me, her eyes glinting with sudden realization. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You planned this." I didn't answer. She glanced down, following my gaze to the edge of the table, where a tiny red light blinked once. Her face drained of color. "Mother," she said slowly, her voice trembling between fury and fear. "What have you done?" I met her eyes, steady now, no longer afraid. "What I should have done a long time ago," I said. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the recorder beneath us. Quiet, patient, merciless. Mini cliffhanger leads to chapter 8. The recording. Zara freezes, realizing she's been caught, while my recorder quee. I never knew the truth could sound so ugly. Zara's voice, once my child's laughter, once my comfort, now played back like poison on a machine. That morning I walked into the police station with shaking hands. The recorder felt heavier than stone in my pocket, as if it carried not just evidence, but years of regret. Aisha sat beside me, her face pale, her fingers cold around mine. She hadn't said much since that dinner, just sat there, hollow, as if her world had caved in all over again. "Are you sure about this, Nanny?" she whispered. No, I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. The officer recognized me immediately, the same one who'd looked skeptical when I'd begged them to believe Aisha was innocent. Now I placed the recorder on his desk, pushed the button, and let Zara's voice fill the room. "You did it for money, Zara. You always do." Salman, stop talking. "You framed your own daughter." The words echoed off the sterile walls, bouncing back like ghosts that refused to rest. The officer leaned back, his brows furrowing. When the tape ended, there was only silence, the kind that follows destruction. He exhaled slowly. "Is that your daughter?" I nodded, my throat dry. "My daughter," I whispered, "and her own undoing." He replayed the last few seconds again just to be sure. Each time I heard her voice, I felt it burn deeper into me. I'd raised her. I'd taught her to speak truth, to respect, to love. How had my little girl learned to lie so beautifully? Aisha's voice broke through my thoughts, trembling. "So, it's over." The officer looked at her with a faint, sympathetic smile. "I think so, yes. You're free to go, Miss Aisha." Free. A word that should have felt like sunlight, but in that moment, it felt like ashes. Aisha pressed her hands to her face, sobbing. Her body shook, the kind of shaking that comes when the weight of injustice finally lifts. I pulled her close, my arms wrapping around her thin frame. She smelled of tears and sleepless nights. "Why did she hate me so much, Nanny?" she cried against my shoulder. "Why would Mama do this to me?" I closed my eyes, feeling the tears rise behind them. "She doesn't hate you, Beta," I whispered. "She hates herself." But the words sounded hollow, even to me. The officer cleared his throat gently. "Ma'am," he said, glancing between us, "we'll need your statement to close the case officially. And there's something else." He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "Given the recording, we can charge your daughter with false accusation and obstruction. If you choose to press charges, that is." For a moment the room tilted. Press charges against my own child. My blood turned cold. Aisha looked at me, her tear-streaked face full of confusion. "You're not really thinking about it, are you?" "I don't know," I whispered. But I did. Part of me wanted justice. For Aisha, for the humiliation, for the years Zara had spent poisoning this family. Yet another part, the mother in me, still saw Zara as a baby with scraped knees, running to me for comfort. How do you destroy the child you once gave life to? I looked down at the recorder on the table, its tiny red light now dark. That single device had done what decades of pleading, crying, and praying never could. It made the truth undeniable. But truth, I realized, doesn't heal by itself. It burns. And it was burning through me now. Every memory, every argument, every time I'd chosen silence over confrontation. The officer watched me quietly. "No rush," he said softly. "Take your time." But time was the one thing I didn't have anymore. Families like ours didn't get better with time, they just learned to pretend better. I looked at Aisha again, and I saw the cost of my silence in her eyes. If I let Zara walk away again, what lesson would that teach? That cruelty has no consequence. That blood forgives everything, even betrayal. Aisha wiped her eyes, whispering, "You always said family is everything, Nanny." But she ruined it. Maybe this is the only way. Her words struck something deep inside me, something both maternal and broken. Maybe this was the only way. Maybe love meant holding someone accountable, even if it hurt more than hate ever could. The officer leaned forward, pen ready, his eyes waiting. "Do you wish to press charges, Mrs. Rahman?" The pen hovered over the paper like a blade waiting to fall. I felt the burn in my chest spread. Rage, sorrow, love, all tangled into something unbearable. I opened my mouth, but before the words could form, my phone rang. The sound cut through the tension like a scream. I looked down at the screen. "Zara." Aisha stared at me, frozen. "Are you going to answer?" she whispered. I hesitated, my heart pounding. Because deep down I knew. Whatever waited on the other end of that call wasn't an apology. Cliffhanger. The officer asks if I want to press charges against my own daughter. As Zara's name flashes across my phone screen, they say justice brings peace. But they never tell you how heavy peace can feel when it's soaked in blood you share. For days I couldn't sleep. Every tick of the clock felt like judgment. Steady, cruel, inevitable. If I protected Zara, I would betray Aisha. If I exposed her, I would lose what little was left of my family. No matter which path I chose, a part of me would die. The mornings felt colder, the house emptier. Even the sunlight that used to comfort me felt sharp, like it was cutting through my guilt. Aisha tried to act normal, helping in the kitchen, staying close. But her silence said more than any words could. I often caught her watching me, waiting for an answer, for justice, for me to choose her this time. And how could I not? This child had been humiliated, handcuffed, broken. Because her own mother had decided she was expendable. So, one afternoon, I opened the small velvet box that had been haunting me. Inside lay the twin necklace, the one my husband gave me decades ago. The engraving still shimmered faintly. Forever, in truth. I ran my thumb across the letters and felt something inside me shatter. Forever, in truth. The man I loved was gone. The family we built, fractured beyond repair. Maybe truth was the only thing left I could give him. I wrapped the necklace in tissue and drove to the police station alone. The road blurred through my tears. When I reached the front desk, I barely managed to whisper, "I have evidence." The officer recognized me immediately, his eyes softening. He took the box from my trembling hands and opened it carefully. "The engraving matches the description from the report," he said quietly. "It'll help the case." His tone was kind, but his words cut deep. Help the case. Help destroy my daughter. That night, I sat by the window, listening to the rain drum against the glass. I'd done what was right. But why did it feel like I'd buried my heart alive? My phone buzzed on the table. New message. From Zara. Just one word. Traitor. I stared at it for a long time, my fingers trembling. Traitor. She wasn't wrong. I had betrayed her. But she'd betrayed something greater. Trust, innocence, motherhood itself. Still, reading that word from my child made me want to scream. I pressed the phone to my chest, whispering, "I'm sorry, Zara. I'm so sorry." The next morning, the house felt heavier. Aisha hadn't spoken since she found out Zara was being called in for questioning. I tried to read, to pray, to breathe, but everything felt mechanical. Even the walls seemed to whisper her name. Zara, Zara, Zara. Every memory clawed its way back. Her first steps, her laughter, the night she held my hand during her wedding. How could the same hands now write traitor? When the phone finally rang again, it wasn't her. It was the officer. "Mrs. Rahman," he said gently. "We've summoned your daughter for questioning tomorrow. You may want to prepare." Prepare. As if any mother could ever prepare for watching her child fall apart. I thanked him and hung up slowly. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then, from behind me, I heard footsteps. Aisha stood in the doorway, her eyes red from crying. "Are you okay, Nanny?" she asked softly. I forced a nod, though my voice cracked. "I did what I had to." She hesitated, then stepped closer, holding something in her hand. A white envelope, edges slightly crumpled. "I found this on the porch," she said. It's for you." My breath caught. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Elegant, sharp, confident, just like her. Zara. Aisha placed the letter in my hand and whispered, "She must have left it last night." The paper felt warm, almost alive, as if her anger and sorrow had seeped into it. My name stared back at me in blue ink. For Mother. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at it, feeling the weight of decades pressing down on me. Was it an apology? A confession? Or another wound waiting to bleed? I looked at Aisha, my granddaughter, the innocent caught in the fire between us, and felt my heart twist. Whatever that letter contained, I knew one thing. It would change everything again. Cliffhanger. As I hang up, Aisha steps into the room holding a letter, addressed to me in Zara's handwriting. I didn't know paper could weigh this much. It sat in my hands like a confession from the grave, the edges trembling, not from the wind but from my heart. I took the letter to the table, my tea untouched, the clock ticking too loudly in the silence. Aisha lingered nearby, hesitant. "Do you want me to stay?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. Some things, some pains must be faced alone. She left the room slowly, and the door clicked shut like a full stop to the life I once knew. The first line hit me like a slap. You always loved him more. No greeting. No warmth. Just that sentence, bleeding with years of resentment. I read on, my eyes burning. You called it fairness, Mother. You said Adil was responsible, that I was emotional. You gave him the business, the land, the respect. You gave me lectures and silence. Do you know what that does to a daughter? I pressed the paper to my chest, trying to steady my breathing. She wasn't wrong. I had made choices. Practical ones, I'd told myself. Adil had been steady, logical, easy to trust. Zara had always been fire. And I had tried to put out her fire instead of understanding it. When Father died, you didn't even look at me. You just asked if I'd sign the property transfer. That's when I learned what I meant to you. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. I remembered that day too clearly. The way she'd stood in the hallway, arms crossed, pretending not to cry. I had thought I was being strong for her. But maybe all she saw was a mother who'd already chosen sides. So yes, I took the gold. The one thing Father gave you that you never deserved to keep alone. It was his promise. Forever in truth. But you never told us the truth, did you? You built a family on silence and favoritism. The paper trembled in my grip. Zara had stolen the necklace, not for greed but to hurt me. To remind me that truth in our home had always been selective. I could almost hear her voice reading the words aloud. Sharp, angry, and breaking all at once. Then came the line that stopped my breath. Framing Aisha wasn't about money. It was about you. I wanted you to feel helpless for once. I wanted you to see what it's like to beg and not be believed. My vision blurred completely. The words swam across the page, twisting, stabbing. I pressed a hand to my mouth to keep from crying out loud. Helpless. She wanted me to feel helpless. And she succeeded. Every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every tear I'd shed, Zara had planned it as punishment. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't think she'd actually be arrested. When I saw her cry, I saw myself. And for a moment I hated you all over again. I dropped the letter to the table and buried my face in my hands. How had love turned into this twisted chain of vengeance? A daughter punishing her mother through her own child, because pain was the only language left between us. The rain began to fall outside, soft but relentless, like the sky itself was grieving with me. I forced myself to read the last part. You'll probably give this to the police too. That's what you do. Choose rules over people. But if you ever loved me, even a little, burn this letter. Let me carry my guilt alone. Don't let Aisha see me as the monster you made me believe I was. I stared at those final lines for what felt like hours. My tears had smudged the ink, blurring her handwriting into something ghostly. I whispered into the silence. You were never a monster, Zara. You were just broken like me. The smell of rain mixed with the faint scent of the paper. Perfume, old and familiar. For a moment I saw her again. Not as the woman who lied, but as the little girl who used to braid my hair, laugh too loudly and dream too big. And that broke me completely. Because I realized then, the inheritance hadn't destroyed my family. Pride had. My pride. Her pride. The pride that built walls where love should have been. Aisha stepped back into the room, her voice small. Nanny. Are you okay? I wiped my tears quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Yes, Beta. I'm okay. But my voice trembled, betraying me. She looked at the letter still open on the table. Is it from her? He nodded. She hesitated, then reached out a trembling hand. Can I read it? My instinct screamed no. This letter was poison wrapped in apology. It would only wound her deeper. But before I could answer, the wind through the open window caught the edge of the page. It fluttered once, twice, then slid off the table, landing near her feet. Aisha bent down, her eyes skimming the first line. Then she froze. Her lips parted, her expression shifting from sadness to confusion. Then disbelief. What does this mean? She whispered, pointing to a sentence I hadn't noticed before, one hidden in the crease at the bottom. I leaned closer, my heart thudding. It was a postscript, hastily scrawled. Pest tell Adil the truth about father's will. He deserves to know what you did, mother. My pulse stopped. I read it again, the words burning into me. The truth about father's will. What truth? Cliffhanger. The story could end here, but fate has one more truth left to reveal. I never imagined forgiveness would feel this heavy. It wasn't peace, it was surrender. 3 weeks had passed since the letter. 3 weeks of silence in a house that used to hum with life and laughter. Now, even the ticking clock sounded judgmental, counting every second I'd waited to do what I should have done long ago. Zara had been in custody the whole time. I told myself I was giving her space, letting the storm inside me calm down first. But the truth, I was afraid to see her. Afraid of what she'd see in me. The morning I finally went, the sky was gray, soft rain tapping against the windshield like a warning. Aisha drove me there, quiet and careful, like she didn't want to disturb my thoughts. When we reached the station, she turned to me. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. I nodded slowly. Some things need to be said face to face. She didn't argue, just squeezed my hand and whispered, "I'll wait outside." The air inside smelled of disinfectant and stale regret. Cold walls, pale light, and the echo of doors locking behind me. When they brought Zara out, I barely recognized her. Her hair was tied back carelessly, her eyes sunken, her spirit dimmed. She looked smaller, like her anger had finally burned itself out. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She just stared at me, her expression unreadable. Then softly she said, "So, you came." I swallowed hard. "Yes." Her lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "To watch me fall apart." I shook my head, my throat tight. "No, Zara. I came to forgive you." The words tasted strange even to me. She blinked, disbelief flickering across her face. "Forgive me? After everything I did to you?" "To Aisha." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "Not for your sake. For hers. So she can grow up knowing love doesn't always have to end in hate." Her shoulders trembled. She turned away, biting her lip as if trying to hold herself together. Then came a sound I hadn't heard from her since she was a child. Soft, broken sobbing. For years, I had imagined what it would be like to hear her say sorry. But when it finally happened, it didn't bring me joy. It only broke me more. Through tears, she whispered, "I didn't hate Aisha, Mama. I just hated how easy love seemed for her. She never had to fight for it like I did." Her words struck deeper than any accusation. Because she was right. Aisha had been the innocent one, the child of peace after years of chaos. Zara, though, she had been my test, my mirror, my mistake. "I know," I said softly. "You wanted me to see your pain. But Zara, I saw it long before you thought I did. I just didn't know how to reach you." She lifted her head then, eyes red but clear. "Maybe now she'll know what love looks like." It wasn't sarcasm. It was surrender. And for the first time I believed her. I stood, my heart a mess of love and loss. "I'll visit again," I promised. She smiled faintly. "You won't need to. I'll be gone by then." Froze. "Gone?" She shrugged, looking down at her cuffed hands. "They said there's a transfer coming. Different city. Different facility. Maybe that's what I need. A new place to hate myself in peace." I wanted to argue, to tell her she still mattered, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was reach across the table and touch her hand. Cold, trembling, human. Her fingers tightened briefly around mine before the guard's voice broke the moment. "Time's up." Walking out of that room felt like walking out of her childhood all over again. The same ache. The same helplessness. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the world still felt washed out, muted. Every drop that had fallen seemed to have taken a piece of me with it. Aisha was waiting near the car, her expression unreadable. When she saw me, she didn't speak, just opened her arms. I went to her, and for a few seconds, we held each other like survivors of a war that no one else could understand. Did she say anything? Aisha asked quietly as we pulled apart. I nodded, wiping my eyes. She said, maybe now. You'll know what love looks like. Aisha's eyes softened, but I saw the pain behind her calm smile. She already knew, Mama, she said gently. She just couldn't accept that love isn't always perfect. I looked at her, realizing how much strength she carried, the strength I once thought Zara had. Maybe this was life's cruel symmetry. One daughter breaking me, the other piecing me back together. As we turned to leave, Aisha hesitated. Oh, she said, reaching into her bag. The lawyer gave me this while you were inside. She held out a sealed envelope, cream-colored, official-looking, with my husband's name printed across the front. My heart skipped. What is it? His revised will, she said quietly. The one he changed just before he died. The paper felt warm from her hands, but cold in mine. I traced my husband's signature, my breath catching as old memories flickered. His voice, his promises, his secrets. A whisper escaped my lips before I could stop it. He never told me there was another version. Aisha frowned, confused. Do you think Zara knew? I didn't answer, because deep down I already feared she did. And whatever truth waited inside that envelope, I knew it wouldn't bring peace. Only another reckoning. Cliffhanger. Aisha meets me outside with a sealed envelope from the lawyer. My husband's revised will. I used to believe inheritance meant money, property, or jewelry. I was wrong. It's the love we leave behind, or the wounds we pass on. That night, I sat in my bedroom with the sealed envelope still in my lap. The edges were soft, frayed from the way I'd been clutching it all evening. The rain outside hadn't stopped since morning, and every drop against the window felt like a countdown to another heartbreak. Aisha sat quietly across from me, her eyes calm but curious. Open it, Mama, she whispered. You've waited long enough. My fingers trembled as I slid the blade under the flap. The paper gave way with a soft tear, almost too gentle for the weight it carried. Inside was my husband's handwriting, steady and familiar, the ink slightly faded. As I began to read, the room seemed to blur around me. To my beloved wife, and to the children who will one day understand. I paused, my throat tightening. He had written it years ago, after our last family argument, the one that split Zara and Adil apart. Each line felt like a voice from the grave, calm yet heavy with hidden pain. This will is not about division of wealth, but preservation of soul. I have created a private trust to be given to the grandchild who shows kindness over greed, patience over pride. My heart stopped for a moment. Kindness over greed. It wasn't about the money. It was a test, one we all failed except her. Aisha leaned forward, her brows furrowed. What does that mean? I handed her the letter, unable to speak. She read in silence, her lips moving with every word. Then her eyes widened. It says, to Aisha, who carries gentleness where others carried ambition. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. He'd seen her even then. He'd known she would be the one to heal what the rest of us had broken. For a long time we just sat there, two women bound by pain, reading the last words of the man who had unknowingly saved us both. Aisha reached for my hand. I don't want it for the money, she said softly. I just want to be worthy of it. I smiled through tears. You already are, my child. You always were. The following weeks felt like quiet recovery after a long war. Zara remained in custody. Adil withdrew into silence again, and I tried to rebuild the pieces of a life I no longer recognized. The house that once echoed with laughter now felt like a museum of ghosts. Every corner held a memory, some warm, some sharp enough to cut. So one morning I made a decision. I packed the few things that still mattered. Old photos, my husband's letters, and the little wooden box that once held the missing necklace. Aisha helped me load the car, her gentle energy keeping me grounded. Where are we going? She asked, smiling faintly. Somewhere smaller, I said. Somewhere quiet enough to start again. We drove for hours until the city faded behind us, replaced by open skies and wild fields. By evening, we arrived at a modest white house near the edge of a small town. Nothing grand. Nothing impressive. Just peaceful. When I stepped inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Stillness that didn't ache. Over the next few days, we unpacked little by little. Aisha filled the walls with laughter again, humming while she painted the old kitchen cabinets. I planted jasmine by the window, the same flowers my husband once said smelled like forgiveness. Every night, I'd sit by the fireplace with the wooden box in my lap. Inside it, the gold necklace still gleamed faintly, though time had dulled its shine. But I didn't see it as treasure anymore. It was a wound that had healed. A reminder that love, when twisted by pride, can destroy everything it was meant to protect. One evening, Aisha joined me by the fire. She looked older somehow, not in years but in understanding. "Do you think she'll ever forgive us?" she asked softly. I sighed. "Forgiveness isn't always about the other person, Aisha. Sometimes it's just what you do when you're tired of carrying the pain." She nodded slowly, staring at the flames. "Then I forgive her." Those words broke something in me and rebuilt something too. 'Cause that was it. That was what my husband meant. Kindness over greed. Heart over hurt. Weeks turned into months. Letters from Zara stopped coming. Adil visited once. Awkward, distant, carrying guilt in his silence. But Aisha stayed. She helped me build a new life. Simple, honest, quiet. We planted a small tree in the backyard, and I told her it was for her grandfather. She smiled. "Then it'll grow strong, just like he wanted us to." Sometimes at dawn I still think about the old house. The heavy doors, the golden chandelier, the rooms filled with arguments disguised as conversations. It all feels so far away now, like a story that belonged to someone else. I've learned that homes don't crumble from time. They crumble when the people inside stop saying, "I'm sorry." One morning, as sunlight spilled across the new kitchen table, Aisha placed a folded note beside my cup of tea. It was from the lawyer again, a final statement about the trust. It confirmed the inheritance had been officially transferred to her name. But there was also a postscript, handwritten by the lawyer himself. "Your husband once said this trust would go to the one who carries the family's heart forward. He believed love is the only legacy that never loses value." I closed my eyes, letting the tears fall freely. He was right. All the years, all the pain, it had led to this moment of peace. Aisha reached for my hand and smiled. "He'd be proud of you, Mama." I looked at her, my voice barely a whisper. "No, my love. He'd be proud of you. You're the proof that love can still be inherited, even after everything we lost." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for the first time, I felt the kind of quiet that doesn't ache anymore. The necklace glimmered faintly in the firelight from the shelf across the room. Not as gold, but as memory, as forgiveness. Families don't break from betrayal. They break when forgiveness never comes.